Jai Guru. Welcome to the next episode of Yogananda podcast. We're going through the autobiography of a yogi line by line. We have reached the end of chapter 17. I would have said, before we start this chapter, I would have said Sasi, but Priyank corrected us, said it's Sashi. Sashi and the three sapphires. And this is the fourth part of it. The story with the sapphires is over by now. Now we're talking about a different topic. He steered the conversation towards education, so we can talk about it. We've got a full house. We've got Lauren, Priyank, and Chris here. How are you guys doing?
Hi,
Superb.
good, thank you.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah. So before we start, we can go over what happened in part three of chapter 17. Chris, do you want to take that one?
So the last episode, we talked about Guruji's scholarly efforts, which were it's maybe a euphemism. There wasn't much until he fled to Serampore. He said to his guru, Sri Yukteswar, Param Guru, that he hadn't prepared. He had been spending all his time meditating and following spiritual practice. And there was a bit of a consolation, and Sri Yukteswar said he would be fine if he went and studied. And we saw through his meditation, he had a bit of a inspiration to open the many books that he had to study at random pages, and he was able then to study the relevant topics that he needed for the exams, and he passed just by a hair's breadth, as he says. And so we talked about he had doubts and that he was doing the right thing or that he was going to be okay. So we had readings on faith, negative thinking. We took Mejta, the book of Mejta, and we found a couple insights in there. So we talked about the sort of varied approach to what studies and what study Guruji would do, but he found his way in the end. And we read a speech that Guruji gave at college about seeking happiness in sense indulgence that produces temporary pleasures and sorrow and things like this. So we delved a little bit into Guruji's life at the time through the book as well.
Thank you, Chris. And incredibly, that worked, that approach. So he was reading random sections of books, and that got him through his half term, or I think it's basically he got an intermediate degree after 2 years, and his full degree would be 4 years. So he would have 2 more years to go. And I think Mukunda was thinking it would continue like that. He would be living with his family in Kolkata and do his college work there, and then commute to Serampore to his Guruji's ashram. Now there is a unexpected change coming up, because as Sri Yukteswar returned from Puri, he tells Mukunda that tells him, your Kolkata studies are over, and I shall see that you pursue the last 2 years of university work in Serampore. So university work itself is not over, but he can do it from Serampore now, and that probably has some changes to it. That probably means he will move from his parents' home to his guru's home in Serampore. He doesn't have to do the commute anymore. I checked some old railway timetables, and it said that back then there was a railway line that went multiple times a day, and it took 35 to 40 minutes from Hora station to Serampore station. So that's about the commute he had to do. So he will no longer have to do that.
You know, living in London, sometimes you don't mind some commutes on the train, especially the overgrounds. You might be able to sit there, open your
Mhm.
emails, do some reading work in preparation for the day. But from what I understand, many trains in India aren't exactly as comfortable and as maybe as few people, relatively speaking, as the ones that we have in the UK. So probably wouldn't have been the best the best journey to be going back and forth every day. Would have been rammed and sort of hot and sweaty. So it would have been some effort that he had to go to regularly at the time.
Yeah, I wonder if trains were as crowded already back in the 1900s or 1910s when that happened as they are today. That we all know the pictures of Indian commuter trains. They're usually quite packed. But yeah, you're right, Chris. Sometimes being on a train is nice. You met your wife on the train, famously.
I met my wife on the train. Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
close to my heart.
you're right. Like now that I have to commute to work driving every day, I miss the days when I was able to sit on a train and read a book instead of driving, trying to keep LA drivers from cutting me off all the time. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It also, I think it's also a sign from Sri Yukteswar to Mukunda that he kind of graduated from this first part of his ashram life. I would have said maybe he put him on a probation, and his probation is now over. So now it's a stronger commitment than before by Sri Yukteswar to Mukunda, where he now has him live locally, and that's very positive. And I'm sure Mukunda was happy because it makes his life a lot easier. However, there is some concern on Mukunda's side because as of now, there is no Bachelor of Arts degree in Serampore. So some Sri Yukteswar magic will have to happen to make this happen.
The magic is you have to kind of infer it because it says Master smiled mischievously, and he says, "I'm too old to go about collecting donations and establishing." He's going to have to do it through some other means, which so initially we kind of think, oh, he's going to use his social influence, his peers, circles of influence and make it happen. But by the end of the section, we know that he's talking about more divine influence to make this happen, which is pretty cool. And then you're also reminded of it's intriguing as to how he would have done that, but obviously we're not privy to that. But in other sections of the autobiography, we kind of know how they do it, because Babaji, when he was trying to get Lahiri Mahashaya to be transferred to Ranikhet, he kind of planted the implausible idea of transferring Lahiri to Shyamcharan Lahiri to this Ranikhet branch, even though he wasn't needed, so he didn't have any duties. So Babaji kind of did it through that means. I wonder if Sri Yukteswar can also do the same thing, and he did the same thing for all these people that he had to influence to make it happen for young Mukunda.
It's a really good point and a really good comparison. I think Babaji then even transfers Lahiri Mahashaya back after he had him there for a few weeks. You could go back. You don't have to live here forever. Ranikhet. I went to slight tangent now, but I went to Ranikhet on my way to Rishikesh one time, and I couldn't believe how small a town that actually was. And so when he wrote about it in the autobiography, I thought this is like a big place, and it's barely an outpost. Yeah, but and then I guess it's difficult to build big towns in the mountains, so it's quite a slope. Yeah, but it's not as close as I thought to Babaji's cave, so that was quite a hike that Lahiri Mahashaya was taking back then. And it's in the middle of a national park that has tigers and stuff. So yeah,
I really want to move. I'm thinking of moving to Ranikhet one day.
yeah.
I really like how
The real
remote,
estate prices there. Or...
how remote it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
I've been
you
looking for
already?
places. I've been
Uh-huh.
looking for places in India, and that seems to catch my
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
catch my
We're looking for
interest.
a 2-bedroom condo in Radhika. I can see you there, Priyank. I think it's I think they are building a lot of infrastructure in India as well. So I think it might not always be as remote as it is now.
Then I'll
Yeah.
have to find a new place.
You'll be up in the Himalayas in no time.
That's right. Yeah. So, like Priyank said, Sri Yukteswar is using divine ways to make this happen. So there's this president Howell or Howells, Professor Howells. That's actually how he calls him, and he's the president of Serampore College, and um, he proclaims that he raised sufficient funds to do a 4-year course at Serampore College for this Bachelor of Arts degree that Mukunda has been doing the first 2 years in Kolkata. So of course, then that solves the problem. I find it interesting how sometimes the divine hand is using us as tools to make things happen. I wonder if Professor Howell ever knew that this course was created mostly for Mukunda.
Well, that he put a business case in, and he wasn't hopeful, but somehow it just happened.
Yeah. And Mukunda is very grateful for that. I think for him this is a great improvement for his life, and he thanks Sri Yukteswar for doing that. And he even mentions that Professor Howell doesn't know how much he should thank the silent help of Sri Yukteswar.
I wonder. No, I always love these small lines here where there's like a token of appreciation or outward, way of saying thank you and all that stuff, or showing love. Because here it says, Guruji, how kind you are to me. And then we also can reflect on how kind our Guru is to us, giving us infinite forgiveness and compassion wherever we err or don't hold to the high ideals that our Gurujis have set for us. So I like these little hidden lines in there.
Nice. Yeah, good spot, Priyank. He is very, throughout the whole time in the Hermitage, Mukunda shows the real devout attitude of a devotee that you should show. Because you know how it is, sometimes life doesn't give you, it gives you lemons and you are not happy about it. And I find Mukunda has this attitude, especially ever since he has been in the ashram, where he always takes everything with grace.
I think I mentioned in the last episode that I was reading the little handbook, the little booklet on character liabilities. And then there it talked about respect and having respect for your friends, your family, your loved ones, and especially your guru. That's a critical element of the relationship and how to build it. And this isn't taking anything for granted. He's not becoming overly familiar. So I like the call out there, Priyank. He hasn't become overly familiar, and he's showing respect. So he's not taking anything for granted. And yeah, it's a really, really nice little comment there.
And now we have a line that made us all chuckle a bit, because now here Teshwar, he makes a prediction that he doesn't really believe in a lot. He says he tells Mukunda that he won't have to spend too many hours on the train, and he will have a lot more time now, and he could use it studying. And he says, perhaps you will become less of a last-minute crammer and more of a scholar. And then the line after that says, but somehow his tone lacked conviction.
It's like
Mhm.
mock severity, playing the part. You know, like when parents just say what they know that they need to say, even though it doesn't really matter
Uh-huh.
in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I find that funny. You know, when you have this big authority figure and he makes little jokes like that, that that amuses me, I must say. Um, hmm. I I'm having trouble with my cards right now.
Me too.
That's
Yeah,
so fitting. I don't see anything.
me neither.
And then I press the reload button and now I see nothing. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
let's
so the text carries on. Now that Mukunda has moved colleges, this is all settled. He's gonna go to Serampore College now. Now we move into a slightly different direction. It's Mukunda says how Sri Yukteswar thinks about our schooling system in general. And he says, like many another sage, grieved at the materialistic trend of modern education. Few schools expound the spiritual laws for happiness or teach that wisdom consists in guiding one's life in the fear of God, that is that is in awe of one's maker. So he talks about the lack of spirituality in our curriculums and how we see people as um, so- in a materialistic sense and not in spiritual one, and then we try to develop them materialistically and not necessarily spiritually, which is a big point that we know this is very important to Yogananda. I don't want to spoil anything, but Yogananda will end up opening a how to live school in Ranchi. So this so he this is a matter very close to his heart. There's this phrase in there, the fear of God. I don't know if that stuck out to you because the word God fearing in German is very much used in Catholic uh, kind of education and and in the sense that only a God-fearing person can be trusted, only a God-fearing person does good things. And I always, as a kid, I found this word a bit strange because I felt that this kind of means you fear God, and that's the only reason why you do good things. Otherwise, you wouldn't. And it's not really the same thing as loving your maker, but fearing him. But Yogananda uses it, so it must have some merit.
Yeah, I'm actually quite sympathetic towards this initially.
Mhm, mhm,
Initially, maybe when I heard it years and years ago,
mhm,
I felt a little bit rebellious towards this idea.
mhm,
Like, oh no, you shouldn't be fearful of God at all. But
mhm,
actually, Yogananda breaks down a lot of the troubles that we would have, i.e., the speech that he gave at the college that we read out last, just in the last part of the episode. He does simply say, look, if you do follow, let's say, satanic ways, you'll suffer. You'll have a lot of sorrow in your life. And so it's probably quite good that we are a little bit fearful of that.
mhm.
And I guess the concept of this is that, you know, there's rules and you go against the rules, you're going to suffer. So I would be sympathetic towards that uh, concept.
Nice.
I quite like the sentence actually in the and the kind of expounding of what the true meaning of the fear of God is. Like he's saying that few schools expound the laws of happiness, that teaching wisdom consists in guiding one's life in the fear of God, in quotes. And then he says, explains that is in awe of one's maker.
Mm,
That's a really, I think, a really positive spin on fear in the
mhm,
negative context. This is a very positive type of understanding of fear, or it's like a
mhm,
redefinition of the word.
mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Awe of one's maker does sound very different than fear of God, but yeah, we talked a lot about words, and Guruji is always trying to build the bridge between the established old religions and his teachings of spirituality. And like Priyank said, I think that's what he's doing here as well. He then makes another statement, which that is all very profound in my opinion. He says, young people who today hear in high schools and colleges that man is merely a higher animal often become atheists. And that's, I guess, the materialistic slash maybe the part of how far our science has come. And when we compare ourselves to animals, we do acknowledge we are higher animals, but we don't see the kind of spiritual uniqueness of a human body, like Gurji mentions often. What makes us unique are the chakras in our spine, and that's not mentioned, that we should be starting to use those.
Yeah, with a limited vision, materially and spiritually, there's a degree of being reductive and reducing everything to the things that you can understand. But if your understanding is limited, then I think this is the result. So it's the lack of sight and understanding in our times that we think we've come so far where it's still a long way to go.
I think that this higher animal paradigm is purely a result of the Darwinian understanding of the biological evolution, isn't it? And because if you just, don't really vibe with like the religious elements of your upbringing or blind faith and all that stuff, then this concept of how creation is and why we're here and how we got here is a very easy out. And then you kind of, as it's described here, you kind of use that as an excuse to stop exploring the other aspect because it's much easier, isn't it? You don't have to go meditate, for example.
Yeah, no, I that makes sense, and unfortunately, we haven't come to the point yet where we look at, in a similarly scientific way, at the soul nature of man. So Sri Yukteswar and Mukunda, they both kind of decry a bit the lack of, he calls it soul exploration, and that humans are, in a sense, and images of God, which would completely change the what's a good way to say that, like, what is most important in our education would then be only that we explore that and not to how to become rich or famous or something.
Which reminds one of Guruji's How to Live schools, that the principles that they're trying to live by and trying to explore, as you kind of mentioned there. And the quote that's quite nice from their philosophy is, self-realization is the knowing in body, mind, and soul that we are one with the omnipresence of God, that we do not have to pray that it comes to us, that we are not merely near it at all times, but that God's omnipresence is our omnipresence, that we are just as much as part of him as we ever will be. All we have to do is improve our knowing. And here knowing is honed and targeted towards exploring ourself, in quotes, that Guruji kind of mentions in this text.
Very nice. Yeah. And Guruji goes on to quote Emerson. I thought it was the first time, but it's not. Chris pointed out he already quoted Emerson in chapter 3 already. So we talked about him a little bit. And the quote, he says, Emerson observed that only which we have within can we see without. If we meet no gods, it is because we harbor none. So I love that, because puts the responsibility back on us again. But then also, if you take it in the context of education, that also means we need to teach the young that there is more to life than just the materialism.
Real great poetic truth there, isn't there? In that line, and it's often paraphrased, I think, by other greats. I think there's one which is "Be the change you wish to see in the world," and then Guruji's got something similar where he says, "Let your example be the way to change others' lives. Reform yourself, and you will reform thousands." And the concept that the greatest gift you can give to the world is your own self-realization, not infinite philanthropy or, being the most altruistic person and charitable, but actually all of that comes after this one thing that we should achieve or attain to.
I like that one that he said, reform yourself and you will reform thousands. Few facts about Ralph Waldo Emerson, because he's an American philosopher that Guruji likes to quote. He lived between 1803 and 1882, and he was a part of a movement called the Transcendentalists, and they were started in New England, where also Ralph Waldo Emerson is from. New England is the top right area on the map of the US around Boston. And like the name says, New England, I think they are, culturally closest to Old England.
Isn't the top right Greenland?
I wonder how that joke will age over the years.
It's not going to age, is it? It's not going to age well.
And so a core belief of the Transcendentalists is that there is inherent goodness in people and nature, and while society and its institutions have corrupted the purity of the individual, people are at their best when truly self-reliant and independent. There's one quote that is in a lot of Yogananda's books, because there's a glossary often at the end of Yogananda's books where he talks about, there's the word master is in there, and he talks about self-mastery. And in that section, he quotes Emerson, and he said, all great ones become not virtuous, but virtue. Then is the end of the creation answered, and God is well pleased. So it's not enough to become good, but we have to become the goodness itself. Become one with the goodness. Yeah. So that's the short tangent about Emerson. We can continue now in the book, and the next section talks about, he continues talking about the education system, and he says that if we only teach about materialism, then we are offering the kids avidya, and that means false knowledge. And there is a really good quote there from the Book of Revelations that Guruji posts there. I'm just going to read that out. He says, "Thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have needs of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked." That's from Revelation 3:17.
And it continues, actually. Should we read the rest of it?
Yeah, go for it.
"I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see."
Amazing. What St. John, he's quoting Jesus here, what he saying here is that you think you are rich materially, but that does not mean you are rich spiritually. And Jesus had the ability to look through people's facades, and he saw the inner life of people and how they were yearning for happiness, and even all the riches in the world were not able to give it to them. The book of Revelations, we talked about it a few times already. I think it's part of the New Testament. It's not um, a part. He quotes it a few times in the Second Coming of Christ, Yogananda, but it's not. He doesn't go through it line by line like other parts of the New Testament. Maybe that's still to come. We don't know. But it was written. It's attributed to Saint John the Apostle and written on the island of Patmos. And he wrote it in Greek, in Hawaiian Greek, and it has its name from the first word of the text, which is revelation. But in Greek, you would say apocalypse or apocalypsis. So that's where the name is from. And the chapter ends with a footnote, and we love the footnotes in the Autobiography of a Yogi, especially when they're longer footnotes and when they are going out explaining context. And here he goes out to talk about the education system in ancient India, how it was ideal, and how he says a kid at the age of 9 would go out to a Gurukula, is that it? It's the home of a guru's. It's a family home of a guru where they would go, and where he would spend all of his time. So he would not go there at 8 a.m. and come home at 3 or something, but he would stay there for years with the guru. I don't know if they would have summer vacation or something like that, but it's really different in the sense that the students, they get taught solidarity. I'm guessing solidarity means solidarity with the guru and solidarity with the other students that are there, and self-reliant individuality. And I'm guessing big part of that, when he says self-reliance, is responsibility, taking responsibility. Yeah.
Indeed, it's still present. Actually, I know some people that have been through that method of schooling, and it's a lot like a exceptionally spiritual boarding school, where the guru disciple relationship is strong, because it's called Gurukula, school, a guru, the education under the discipleship of a guru. And so usually as soon as a boy or girl, but mostly boys, become of puberty, like 12, 13, they would then enter the ashram of a Gurukula under the tutelage of a guru, and then they'd stay there until pretty much adulthood, so 24. So for 12 years, they would stay there in that school. And nowadays, you'd have them coming home for holidays and things like that. But back in the day, I'm not so sure. The famous Gurukul that we know of is when Krishna was a child, before his adulthood. He went into the Gurukul of Sandipani. So him and Uddhava, they joined that school, and so they teach quite a lot of things. So I went to Sandipani's ashram, where the Gurukul, Krishna's Gurukul is, and it had like about 100 different subjects, and not subjects that you would imagine to be in a divine school. Very practical subjects like sewing, suturing, first aid. So everything that you can imagine a really good education would have. It had it, not just meditation and spirituality, but all all walks of things. You know, even things like handwriting and calligraphy and all that kind of stuff, and you know, working with animals, and so yeah, it's a really lovely ashram. If you want to see what a Gurukul would have been like.
Where is it at?
It's
Is it near Vrindavan?
No, it's actually no, yeah, it is in that area. Yeah, so you just have to search Sandipani's ashram. It's actually in a place called Mahakaleshwar in Ujjain. So it's like 100 miles west of Vrindavan.
Back in the day, that must have been quite a journey. Yeah,
indeed.
Nice. Yeah, very, very interesting, this concept. Guruji he quotes from a book here by a professor, Venkateshwara. I hope I got this correctly. And the book is called Indian Culture Through the Ages, Volume 1. And we will put a link in the description if somebody is keen to reading it. Guruji goes on then. He says, there was a high standard of self-imposed discipline. So I guess that's different than like trying to develop discipline because you want it, not because you have to. I'm guessing that implies also that you are being taught why discipline is important and understanding the meaning behind it. A stern regard for duty, selfless action, and sacrifice, combined with self-respect and reverence for others. Those are all the attributes of a hero, right? Of a person who is good through and through. So I wish more of that would be in our education system today, maybe one day. But it is combined with a high standard of academic dignity and a sense of the nobility of the great purpose of human life. So it's basically a combination. I guess they also have more time. They spend a lot of time with the kids, so they can teach them good things all day long and in everything they're doing. It reminds me a little bit of what I heard about schools in Japan. Because I had a friend who moved to Japan with his kids, and they told me the difference between their experience of a school in the US and the school in Japan. And they had this thing where they came to school in the morning, and it was very important to be on time. Otherwise, you had to do extra duties. And it was normal for the kids to stay longer after school and clean up the school. So they had no cleaning lady or something, but the kids were cleaning the school afterwards. And I asked the kids if they found that terrible, but they seemed to like it because it created a sense of community in the classroom that wasn't there before, and a sense of ownership of the school, which they found motivating. Yeah, we can talk about this and our school system today, but I don't think they compare very well. I think I see Lauren laughing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all doing our best, and we are where we are. But I do like the idea that Guruji later started a How to Live school, and that those teachings are slowly trickling down. All right, so this concludes the chapter 17. There's a point that Priyank wanted to make. There's a spectacular picture of Mukunda meditating in this chapter. Especially his eyes are captivating.
It's in some prints. Apparently, it's not in Mike's print. So
it's not in my print now.
You've probably got the latest print.
Possibly, yeah.
Mine's a few years old. So yeah, it's Mukunda, like in his teens. It says here, Sri Yogananda at the age of 16. He's kind of half naked, and he's in full lotus on like some sort of animal skin, and with a piercing gaze going straight, straight to the creator. His eyes are like Babaji's eyes, looking just above the camera. I really love that gaze, and I really don't enjoy posing for photos. So whenever someone asks me for a photo, I often just play this game of looking just above the camera.
Can I just
Oh yeah,
can
go
I
on.
just say
Yeah.
I've got to jump off now, guys. A bit early. Obviously, you guys know this, but to listeners, ciao. I thought his gaze here. He's looking at the point between his eyebrows, and he's in
Could be.
He's in like a
Mm.
samadhi type state.
Mhm.
I thought
Yeah, yeah.
that's what that was. When I saw it, I just thought, wow,
Yeah,
it blows me away.
yeah. So,
I'll throw in the comment.
yeah, it could be that. Also, like, and some people meditate with half closed eyes and their eyeballs pointing upwards. It could be that as well.
Mm.
But yeah, this picture, whenever we post it on our social media, it always does like the best of all Guruji's pictures. This one, but I think because yeah, Lauren.
Just gonna say, what do you think he's wearing around his neck? Do you think they're sandalwood beads or Rudraksha? They look quite smooth.
I think it will be Tulsi beads.
Tulsi beads. Oh.
I think so. I've got some. I use those for my Kriyas.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've got two. Like whenever I'm out and about, like at the center, I use my Rudraksh. But if I'm at my meditation room, I just keep like 36 beads, just Tulsi beads that I can just pick up, so I don't have to go.
Are they
every
are they
time,
stone
like-
or wood?
No, wood. Tulsi is like a
Wood.
plant associated with Krishna, with Krishna and Divine Mother.
Do you think this is one of the? You remember in a previous chapter, Guruji was
Yes.
talking about the plants that we can
This-
wear as well as the astrological bangles. So Tulsi is also one, is it?
This is certainly one.
Oh.
Yeah, and Tulsi leaves are really potent as well.
Oh,
like
lovely to
the whole
drink.
plant. Yeah, it's called wild basil, holy basil, I think it's
Holy
called.
basil. Yeah.
Holy basil, yeah. And when people, there's a custom of when people pass away, they leave just one leaf in their mouth before the cremation. So
Why is it called basil?
it's called holy basil. It is a type of. It's from the basil
Is it?
family.
Can you make holy pesto with it? Or
You probably could, but you, as a Hindu, you wouldn't. It's like kind of it represents Divine Mother, that plant, so you wouldn't necessarily
Okay. Interesting.
eat her.
Holy basil.
I don't
But
know.
drinking's fine.
Nor drinking.
Oh,
But
people drink
maybe-
Tulsi tea though, no? Unless if you're Hindu, you don't.
I doubt you would. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I could be wrong.
Wow.
I don't think I would.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was such a blasphemy. I thought it was like some
Yeah,
sort of
it's
helpful
very- it's
thing
like-
to have in your
it's-
cupboard.
It's essentially Divine Mother. That's how you perceive that plant.
Wow.
Tulsi is
Okay,
a
I
Divine
see, I
Mother.
see.
So
Okay.
it's like it's yeah. So even
So
even
really-
when you're not, they don't even pluck leaves. They don't even pluck the
Oh.
leaf. They let it fall. So they don't prune the plant because it's very.
Okay, I
Got
should no
it.
longer be
Okay.
drinking Tulsi tea.
Yes.
Noted.
No. Customs vary across India. So no, I
Yeah,
don't.
drink it with reverence.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
also
that's
do, to be fair.
Yeah, the powerful gaze though is something quite special in this picture, which is significant, I think, because he isn't Yogananda, and he isn't, he's not a Paramahansa Yogananda here, is he? He hasn't been through his moment of realization, I don't think. But you can see that he's got that spiritual power even at that young age, isn't it? So, which kind of implies that his realization is there, even before the award of the title, and even before he met Sri Yukteswar, it was just kind of dormant, and certainly we know from Mejda that it was very much alive. How much spiritual power he had.
The background almost doesn't look real, does it?
Mm.
It's got sort of like
Yeah.
painting type quality
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
Wow.
It could be a painting background.
It could be like a backdrop.
No, as in
Yeah.
like it could be a picture where they painted a background. So it was
Ah,
could be something like that, because
yeah.
there's pictures back in these times. So this would have been what's 93, so they would have been 1909, right?
Mhm.
Mm.
So pictures
Is
back
it?
there.
1893, yeah. Latin era.
Yeah. So yeah, pictures would have been quite weird. So they probably had to like enhance the backgrounds and I don't know,
Mm.
do weird stuff with pictures to make them like seem normal. They probably only focus on
Yeah.
very limited things in pictures.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
And
especially
maybe the background was just white and they filled in the white with something.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
could be something like that. Guess we will never know. Yeah, I thought it was a very lovely picture.
Mm.
Incredible. Yeah. Captivating. Right. And now we finished chapter 17. And what are the reflections on the chapter? What did you guys think? Dashi and the three sapphires.
I really liked the chapter. One of the main reasons is because I more understood the difference between the two types of disciples that Sri Yukteswar heals or grants the extension of the life for in the doctor's case, and the full healing in Shashi's case. And the difference was, where the doctor kind of passed away, Shashi kind of lived. Neither, you'd say, became disciples of Sri Yukteswar. Even Shashi, he didn't go back, right? But the difference, I think, was that Shashi was looking to Sri Yukteswar with reverence, right? Even though if he couldn't live up to his ideals, but he still had that reverence, and then he lived and was healed. Whereas the doctor was looking at Sri Yukteswar with some ego of rivalry, that kind of mentality. And so Sri Yukteswar healed him, at Mukunda's request, but he did obviously with that kind of attitude. It's not going to end well for us or the good doctor. So I thought that was quite cool. And I thought it was quite cool that he talks about astrology in this chapter as well, with the three sapphires. And I thought it was quite cool that he talked about it kind of showed the limitations of astrology as well. So he said, like, he told him when it was going to be useful, and then he also says, now you wear them or don't wear them, it makes no difference. So it's like he's kind of like telling us that some things are for preventative measures, as opposed to like a cure. So don't go to astrologers seeking a cure. You can go before you get to that stage, and probably if you've got to that deathbed stage, it probably is going to be too late, unless you have a divine intercession where your guru can heal you miraculously. But he did without any reservation say you need to wear a bangle, astrological bangle, such that the gold, copper, and the silver that most SRF people wear, or a lot of SRF people wear. And I was thinking about this actually, and I thought, do you think it is really mystical what happens with the astrological bangle, or could it be something really simple? Because he says that the bangle and the sapphires are useless unless they're the exact weight that's required. And today I was going for my weekly 5K run, and the only, like, the heaviest thing I had on my body was this bangle, and I'm really unfit right now, so I could feel the weight of this bangle.
You're not wearing an Apple Watch then?
No, wearing my Casio, which is very light. But yeah, I could feel the weight of the bangle, and I thought to myself, is it possible that two things are happening? Say you're just wearing this bangle every day, can you imagine it may say burn 10 calories more than if you didn't wear it a day, but over your lifetime, how many more calories is it going to be? So in some way, you're actually carrying weight. You're burning some physical calories as well as some sort of karmic link. Maybe there's some link. I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching.
I thought you were going to say, oh,
ideal.
it's heavy, so you're reminded, about the path. And,
There could be so many things. It could be a multi-pronged thing, right? Could be the physical carrying of it as well, and it could be the protection.
You feel your bangle arm is stronger than the other
It's
one.
going ahead. And then so going back to the chapter, and then obviously we got the exams and passing exams with faith, and the reminders of the ideal education as we kind of focused on today. And
I found it really valuable, this chapter, as they all are, but Shashi was such a nice example to me of both how to be a good disciple and also how to not be a good disciple at the same time. And I think it's quite rare to have, a 2-in-1 situation where, of equal value, his faith in the Guru and his unswerving sort of conviction that Sri Yukteswar would heal him, and that his Guru was the only way for him, and it didn't matter if he had a sapphire or not, he would do it. And I really took that on board, to have that kind of faith and love for the Guru and God and their help. But equally, it was also the other side where, he was so ashamed at the end that he couldn't even face his Guru anymore, right? And it reminded me that, no matter what happens, no matter, if we err or whatever we do in life, we have to keep going back to the Guru's feet and, not let our ego or shame get in the way of that, and just keep going there with love. So yeah, it was a really special chapter for me.
Good point, actually, because if you think about his other friends that he's mentioned, that he's had, past times with, especially, for example, when he went to Vrindavan with that, for that test, one of his friends was did not do well in that test. He kind of gave up. So there was not much to admire. And so but here, you're right. It's a very dual nature. Chris made go on, Mike.
I was just going to say that this was the point that hit home the most for me, what Lauren just mentioned, that Sashi, he was in the beginning, he had some self-awareness, as in maybe it was laziness as well, I don't know, but he felt like he didn't have the stamina, the discipline to follow Sri Yukteswar's guidance. And then he also, I don't know if that was a cheap excuse when he said he didn't have the money to buy a bracelet. But Sri Yukteswar told him afterwards, you will come with 3 sapphires and it won't be any use. And he came anyways, and then laid at his feet and was begging for help. So that was, and then he did help him. So there was mercy given. So even though it created some kind of sense of shame inside Sashi, but it still showed that, like Lauren said, the way out is only through the Guru. There's in the end, there's no other way, really.
Chris has made a comment before he left. He said this chapter ties back to Sri Yukteswar multiple times, and his guidance and grace provided each time more than once. What beauty and blessings the Guru gives. Life lessons shared with us to remind us to look to the Guru and trust in his words and guidance in all walks of life.
Great. So I think we covered chapter 17. The next chapter will be 18, a Mohammedan wonder worker. One chapter that I remember and always found very entertaining. So I think we're gonna have more fun with this one. And with this, I want to thank the listeners, the viewers, Lauren and Priyank and Chris. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru.
Tiger.